just kind of talking and hanging out when I don't have a hand. But now I have a hand, 100% focus on the hand. Ace, ace, queen, eight, rainbow, maybe the sort of aces that we could occasionally flatten the button, but I think mostly we're going to want to 3-bet this one. I've been looking at the play of various different aces. If I do get 4-bet, you know, okay, so here I 3-bet, but it was a small 3-bet because it was a small open raise, and I got 2 cold calls, and then the you know, raiser called. This flop, what do I have on this flop? I have a pair of aces. I have a blocker to the 8, and I have a queen, which blocks the inside wrap. I don't think that's enough to bet 4 ways, so I'm going to check it back and just hope for the ace of diamonds on the turn. That's literally my only out to the nuts. That is the 10 of diamonds. Now I have 3 outs to the nuts, which would be a jack of the non-spade variety. So we're going to root for that card now. Our rooting interests have evolved. Okay, what do I have now? I have a blocker to the straight, so it's a little harder for them to have queen jack. And I have a pair of aces, and I have a jam, which is roughly pot size, and a call. So the call, like, what's the call? I mean, I'm not really thinking about what to do with my hand, but I'm wondering what they're doing. Yeah, they have a set, and the other person had a wrap. Okay, interesting. I would have thought I was in worse shape against that hand, but you know, and I was gonna fold, and they would have gotten the best hand to fold had the player on my right not had a set of 10s. But the 10 smacked them right in the 10s. I guess I was ahead on the flop, and maybe I could have gotten some folds on the flop. Maybe I could bet something like quarter pot or fifth pot. But I don't think so. You know, if I had the ace of spades, it's a different story, because now I'm blocking a whole bunch of things that people are going to continue with, that they might check raise with, that they might check call with. If I had ace of spades and like any pair from the board, then I'm also blocking a lot of the value hands my opponents can have, in which case I would be much more apt to put a bet in on the flop. But 4 ways, generally, I think we need more equity and more effective blockers to bet than heads up. That is something that I can test by running some Munker sims, because you can run multi-way sims, but I think they take a long time and use a lot of RAM, and I do not have that much RAM, unfortunately. All right, so we've got so far 1, 2, 3 players, all of whom have open limped. So I'm pretty confident that this is in fact a good Pot Limit Omaha game. I mean, we've also seen the actual cards that these people showed up with. Let's take a look again at the ace ace queen 8 hand. I'm just going to pop it up, and we're going to see what people showed up with. 10 10 3 3. Okay, double pair hand, very reasonable. They did that min raise. Jack 8 7 6, pretty light for the big blind to be calling. So we will, I mean, they cold called a raise, right? 3-bet, sorry. Not even closing the action. So we're going to say you're green. Over here, min RFI cut off with 10 10 3 3 single suited. Okay, so just a little note. King Jack 7 6. I think this is a fold. The 7 6 is pretty decent though, and I'm gonna mark this one. I think this is one of the areas that I'm less confident in terms of hands like this that are kind of junky, but they've got a little bit going for them. Maybe if it was 7 8, actually, I do raise it. Maybe in the cutoff I raise it, right? So we're gonna check those assertions at the end of this hand, this session rather, not at the end of this hand. We're gonna just keep playing more hands at the end of this hand, and then more hands. So yeah, King 10, pair of 9s, suit, nice. All right, free pot, even nicer. I'm not going to RFI this from the small blind. I don't think it's that close. I mean, if it was suited to the jack, that would be a lot more favorable. All right, this player's playing a good percentage of their hands. And now we have a new player. What do we know about this new player? We know 2 things. We know that they bought in for less than the maximum and also not the minimum. So it's a very odd choice. Maybe that's the rest of the money in their balance. And they're just like, let's gamble. Let's go. Let's get it in at PLO. And 2, we know that they decided to post in the hijack with, you know, in a 6-handed game. So they got 2 hands for the price of $1. And so they might, that sort of reinforces the kind of like, let's go. Let's get it in at PLO. So we have a read. We have a read on that player. Is it a firm read? No. No, it's a light read, right? But it tells us something. Speaking of a light read, I did read this Sicilian short story yesterday that was recommended to me. I enjoyed it, and I will explain the ending at some point to somebody who wants me to give my take on the ending. Spoiler alert, someone got shot. It's Sicily. I don't know. It's a mafia thing. Let's see. For some reason, I just typed "Good morning, y'all" in the chat. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the word "y'all," and I'll tell you why. I think having singular and plural versions of the word "you" is of use. I think it's useful to make it clear when we're speaking to one person rather than to a group of people, or vice versa. And thus, the word "y'all" is a word that is of use in the English language, yet not used by a lot of people. So I think I like to use it. I'm taking it. I've appropriated it. As a northerner, I am appropriating this element of Southern culture. And that's just how it's going to be. I mean, I guess the northern version is "use guys," but I think that's maybe a little more specific. BuffyBot says, "Good morning. I like the new layout, especially on my phone. Like the wide table look. Do miss your thanks for watching and being you." Well, thank you for watching and for being you, which I mean much more sincerely than it probably sounds when I do it in my Dan Aykroyd voice. But looks like we are fans of Mr. Rogers. We are fans of Mr. Rogers. Won't you be my neighbor? But yeah, the wide table look, I think it's especially with consideration to people viewing on small screens, whether it's a laptop or especially a phone, especially a small phone. I think maybe the stack sizes aren't ever going to be super clear on a phone. So they have the nuts here. The other person had the second nuts and bottom set. So those aren't very good hands to get it in with in general. The problem with the under straight is it's not drawing dead against the bigger straight because it did have a king, so it had a draw to the bigger straight. If an ace came, they would have chopped, and they did have backdoor diamonds. So it's not the worst. And the other player had a set, which you'd rather have in that particular matchup, right? You'd rather have the set because then if the board pairs, you win. But somebody can have a bigger set, and if you're three ways and you have bottom set, first of all, you have this like slightly ahead or way behind situation. And when there's three cards to a straight like that and there's two straights available, and it's like ace jack and jack nine, your bottom set is generally going to need to fill up. And then on top of that, like you can get set under setted, or set over setted. I don't know, depending on how you want to use it as a verb. Okay, so we're going to focus 100% on the hand. Aces with a jack nine suited. There's a sort of heuristic, always 4-bet aces out of position. We can basically just get it in with this person. They can have better aces. They can have kings. And that's a really good flop for them. We're probably going to lose, and that's fine. We just have to make peace with that. We lost twice, right? I should have rebought faster. Actually, I probably still could have while I was yapping about it. But that's just going to happen. And it's fine. We got the money in good. How good did we get it in? Let's just take a look. 65%, right? So they're going to win 1 out of every 3 times that we run that out. So I think just internalizing that and being like, yeah, I don't expect to necessarily win this, right? I expect that I got it in good and I've received satisfaction from that. And now we're going to look at this hand where I have a blocker to the straight. I have a flush draw that's not that great. I've got a blocker to my own flush draw and a straight draw that's like quite the wrap. I don't think there's that much reason to really put money in this pot. Yeah, I have a pair. Yeah, I have a wrap. There's nothing that's going to be really exciting. And it's a limped pot, so the SPR is like 15-1. So I'm actually just going to fold, even though it looks like I kind of crushed this flop. If I were heads up from the start, if it were a low SPR, like just rip it, right? Just get it in. But that wasn't the scenario. The scenario was it was 4 ways and it was a high SPR. And for that, like, hands like that, just like let it go. I don't think I don't feel obligated to get tied up into a hand like that. I think that can happen. We can feel like, oh, I'm supposed to do this, right? It's like, no, it's just not a good spot. Jacks with an ace and an 8 suited. I think raising is fine. Then we would be in a lower SPR spot. I do think there's just a ton of flops that, you know, 3 ways out of position aren't going to have... I mean, our hand has decent playability, and now I've got the double jacks, and I am tempted to, you know what, let's just do it. Let's bet, and then if the river bricks, we're going to bet again. And this person, what did they call down with? Let's just go for it. And they're going to fold their diamond draws. They're maybe going to fold their 2 pair. I don't think this player's necessarily folding a set. Maybe I could have gone smaller with that. But with the double blockers, and I did actually have outs beyond that, right? Here, okay, ace, queen, 10, 8. I'll mark the last hand, and we'll talk about bet sizing. And we could talk about pre-flop a little bit, too. So now I have middle pair. I do have, like, some interesting backdoors. So if I were heads up, I would see bet this flop 3 ways. I'm going to check it back. We're going to catch a jack of spades on the turn. This is what I've decided. All right, fine, a jack of clubs. That's arguably just as good or even better. All right, they bet close to full pot. What are my outs to the nuts? Ace, queen, 10, 9. That's a lot. That's going to be enough to call this bet size. I'm not super worried about getting check raised here. I don't think anybody's going to have king very often. I did bank the nuts. Now, it should be noted that, like, on a card like this, or any of my straight cards, I'm not going to be the sole possessor of the nuts, right? People are going to have the nuts with me, and we will be holding the same nuts. 10-7 did make a straight. How much do I want to bet here? I'm just going to go with this, like, half pot, and I could make it enough to put 24-24 all in, but here, I'll leave them $3, and they can hang out. Wow, that player just snap called. I feel like they have 10-7. They could have queen 10 and be trying to get the overcall, which I think would be fairly intelligent. But I think I might scoop this pot now. Yeah, 10-7. So this is a very interesting hand. It's one of the best hands for bluff catching, right? Because it's the second nuts, which is often going to be good, but you don't really want to be able to bet it for value. But also, it's got it's double blocking the nuts. So since they snap called, I feel like maybe I should have just potted it. Maybe they if they snap call that, then maybe they call pot. So that was perhaps poor bet sizing. But hey, I'm not going to complain too much. It's nice to you know, run good for a hand. I guess we just took some of our chips back from that person that we lost with our aces versus kings. Our aces versus their kings, also, they had a very reasonable king-king combo, right, to get it in with. I think they had an ace-high suit. They had an ace to go with their kings. And being that short, I think getting it in with ace-king-king makes some sense. So, you know, it's interesting. This player's playing 81% of their hands. They're only playing 6% of them aggressively. But, like, I've got a little bit of respect for their game. I mean, they're doing some things right, is how I would put it. Okay, let's focus on this. They 3-bet me with kings, but it was kings with an ace. Here, what do I want to do with this? I'm not folding, right? The question is whether I want to try and push these other people out behind me. I do think that's going to work fairly often. Let's go ahead and do it. This is, like, potentially terrible, but I don't think it's likely to be that bad. This person, even if they call, like, if they have kings or somehow aces, I don't think they have aces much here at all. We'll just put the rest of the chips in. I've got queens and 7s. If they have kings, good for them. They don't. They have jacks, and maybe they'll get there, maybe they won't. They don't. I win. So the idea there was I didn't have that much exposure because one of the players behind me wasn't particularly deep, and I had the opportunity, because the betting was reopened, I had the opportunity to try and force these people out, have $7 of dead money in the pot, and that would have been a really good situation. So I'll mark that one and talk about it more a little bit later. This hand looks like I might have flopped something. Let's just start building a pot. I mean, I could check a hand like this, and I can bet it. And my new strategy is going to be, when it's a limped pot, like pot or not, right? Either bet pot or check. Those are going to be basically what I'm choosing from at the moment. Sometimes I like to make these like just like $1 bets or whatever, and then just like everybody folds, and it's like, okay. And that's nice. And so maybe I'll keep doing that some. But, you know. All right, this hand I think is worth an overlimp. Do I want to raise it? I don't know. This small blind limped pot scenario is something that I just haven't worked out. I haven't put the work into, partially because I'm not sure where to go with it, right? I mean, I can run some solves for a limper with a particular range. I can even do multiple limpers, but multiple limpers is going to be very difficult in order to just have the space. But I'm not sure about like locking hands in PLO pre-flop. This board I have bottom pair. I've got nothing else. It's just a check fold for me. This wasn't why I overlimped this hand, right? I overlimped this hand aiming to flop the nuts, you know, a nut flush draw, some kind of combo deal. Here, this is not a combo platter. I need running aces, queens, or nines to have something remotely nutty. Or threes. Running threes would be the stone colds. All right, king, queen, four, deuce. I think most king, queen double suited, the good variety, we're going to be able to play. I think four, deuce are the ones that that we can actually fold, and I'll go ahead and do that. So, yeah, I'm just going to let this one pass. I'm going to look it up and see what kind of king, queen suited good suit do we play in this spot, because I'm fairly confident in this fold, not 100%, but I really am unconfident in my, like, what about king, queen, 8-4, or king, queen 5-4, I think is a clear open, like king, queen, 9 deuce double suited. I don't know. We'll see. Kevin E. Poker, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. I appreciate it. You know, slow and steady growth is what we're going for. And I don't know. Yeah, so I was actually just talking about the idea of in streams. Actually, I'm gonna get derailed by this hand again. Jacks with an ace. I think because I'm actually gonna fold this, and I think this is a playable hand in this spot generically, but if I raise, I think I'm going to get cold called once or twice behind me, and it's not going to play that well. I think a hand like this, one of the reasons it's playable is that this ace is a great blocker and blocks a lot of continue hands. But these players don't care that much about what constitutes a good continue hand, and so I think this is a spot where I can tighten up a little bit and avoid some kind of gross spots. But yeah, I was talking about approaches to balancing kind of chatting during stream and focusing on poker during stream. Every time I get a playable hand, though, I'm going to focus on the hand, and that's kind of where I was going to go with it. So we'll get back to that. to be determined. Okay, this is a very pretty hand, I think. I think I can raise this from any position. Can I raise this from the low jack? I know if you make the 5 a 6, it's very clear. I have the nut flush draw, I have middle pair, and I don't have a gut shot or anything, but I think I've got a clear bet. I'm blocking a lot of check raises, I'm blocking a lot of continues, and my hand has a lot of equity, so it feels like let's put some chips in and figure things out on the turn. Let's see if I get a hand that is foldable. It is. Okay, so I worked in a casino for like a year and a half, and I was a cashier, then I was a dealer, then I was a floor, then I was a supervisor. When I was a floor and supervisor and like at the podium, one thing that I learned a lot, and this is applicable to poker table conversations just as much, but it felt more specific. Like I really internalized it when I was like a supervisor, when I was at the front. Is the idea that you can have a casual conversation, you can hang out and chat with people, and just be chill, right? And it's like, if there's no work in poker, if we're playing, a lot of times like there's no work to be done, right? There's work available. Like right now I could be saying, okay, this player on the right, they've played none of their hands so far. What was the action here? Somebody raised, somebody cold called. That's what it looks like. And then they led on the flop. Maybe I could be following the action every single hand. And I've tried that on the stream, and I think it makes for good YouTube content. I think I could do that with YouTube. I think for a stream, a level of interactivity is preferable. And so what I'm going for is when I'm not in the hands now, I'm mostly just going to chill, especially if there's someone in the chat saying something like, you are a table selection professional, god tier game. This is, I don't know, this feels like an average PLO 100. You know, I think now that you're kind of slumming it with us, you'll see these games are really good. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Like, I mean, picking your stakes in sight is also game selection, right? But it's like, yeah, these, I mean, it's a delight. It's a delight playing in these games, except when running absolutely horrible. But even then, I think I've developed a confidence of just like, it's going to turn around because people are putting in chips really, really bad. And so we can get really high equity in a lot of spots. But then, yeah, we're having this casual conversation. It's very enjoyable. I love that on stream. But now I've got a hand, so I'm going to focus. King, Jack, 6-6, definitely not a raising hand suited to the Jack. Not a ton of really delightful flops that I can get a ton of value on. Mostly, I'm just hoping for a 10 on the turn. If it checks through multiple times, you know, I've got to think about what am I blocking. I have one spade blocker. That's not super exciting. Very easy for 2 out of these 12 cards to be spades in one person's hand. And now, like, a king might be good, right? So I'm going to keep checking, and I have some showdown value. If I totally whiffed there, making a bluff might be somewhat reasonable, but I probably wasn't going to do it. But I do feel like you can win a fair amount of these limped pots if you're really observant and seeing when everybody's just checked out. And this player could have been doing something like that, right? So far, they've made a number of plays that seem reasonable to me. But then they've made some plays that are not so reasonable. Okay, king, single suited with a 69 and suited to a king. So this again is a hand where like I can raise and build a pot out of position multi-way. If there is a raise, I'm not sure whether this is supposed to be a flat, but with these two players in behind me, I'd be happy to flat, right? I'm definitely happy to have this be a single raised pot. Having it be a limped pot, though, isn't so bad either, as I basically just have a set draw, and maybe if an ace and a couple spades come off, these players are gonna put too much chips in, and with, you know, keeping the SPR high, I think has value against players like this. Whereas if I had a better king, I would have tried to maybe kind of punish them more pre-flop. Here, I'm blocking so much. I got myself in trouble by checking a lot of these hands yesterday. I don't want to overlearn that lesson. There aren't a ton of great turn cards. I am actually going to check, and I do think potting it there, just betting, you know, normally was reasonable. I'm going to go ahead and pot it now. I was probably check raising the flop, depending on some things. There are now even more bad runouts, as any card will bring a straight unless it pairs the board, and any heart will also bring a flush. I think it's hard for somebody to have more than 50% or close to 50% equity here. So, you know, that's a hand where if I had raised pre, I could pot flop or half pot flop or whatever, and then basically jam turn against the shorter stack. So, you know, raising would have given a very different feel to that pot. Single suited pair with an ace, I think I can raise even with it not being a suited ace as I'm on the button. Again, though, this is the sort of hand that I think the solver likes better when it assumes these players are going to play well. This hand doesn't have great playability. I have a pair of threes. I have, you know, I can catch a 2 and catch an underwrap, and that's like about it. I'm blocking backdoor diamonds, and now I have 3 hearts to a straight flush, which is, you know, totally not a thing. So, you know, such is life. How many hands? I've marked 5 hands so far, 4 of them pre-flop. So, as always, so I'm going to fold. This is garbage. As always, anybody who has any hands that you're like, hey, can we talk about this hand a little bit more? Let me know. You know, I'm happy to throw them on the pile and discuss them at the end of the session. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, like and subscribe, then you can yeah, just include the timestamp, and it'll be easy for me to give it a look and a comment. I mean, it's interesting. Like today, I've got a good number of viewers, but not a whole lot of chat, and that's fine. I seem to have plenty to talk about on my own. Nary a dull moment. I mean, I've actually, I've been playing 38% of my hands. Is that because I've been playing loose? I don't think so. I think I've almost been playing a little bit tight. Let's throw that ace 4-3-3 on the pile actually for the pre-flop. And this is just double suited junk. Yeah, but like I feel like I always have something to talk about. Although in this particular scenario, I've been getting dealt a fair number of good hands, I think. So sometimes that happens. I mean, I've had aces multiple times in 26 hands. I think maybe I only had aces once, and I had queens and decided to get it in with queens, which worked out fine. Yeah, against the person who I had the aces against. Kevin says, can't chat, putting on pants. Gotta get those victory spin pants on. For sure. I've thought about like dressing differently on the stream. This is like my poker my poker playing getup, right? I've got my hoodie. Where are my shades? I don't have shades here, but I feel like I'm like dressed for poker. And I have some pants that I can kick and punch in when I get some channel points doing some things that are useful. Let me know, anybody in the chat, if you're collecting channel points yet. I'm definitely going to do something with them very soon. Maybe today. Maybe let's work on that today. That would be fun. But yeah, I actually the day that I had pots stolen from me by Mike Postle, I filmed it was a takeoff on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where I came home wearing like my like floor man suit, and then took off my floor jacket and put on a sweatshirt, and was going to do a whole thing about like going from being a floor to like a player, but then I actually have that somewhere, hopefully, so I might make that that would make a good like poker TikTok, or like an intro to a YouTube intro. And I could use it as a Twitch intro. I've thought about having some intros or interstitials or whatever to mix it up. Like if I'm doing a long stream and I need to take a break for whatever reason, just like put a video on and be like, here, watch this. But then I need to make sure that my video player doesn't play anything else I have, particularly copyrighted material. Okay, let's focus on this hand. I have ace jack 7-6. I'm not suited to the ace. If I were, this would be an interesting decision. As I am not, it is not. It's just a fold. I think flatting would have merit here if I were suited to the ace, to just play pots with this player. I would be out of position. I'd have the worst absolute position, the worst relative position, because if I checked, they checked, and then the pre-flop raiser put a c-bet out there, I would be next, and it would be less than ideal, let us say. But yeah, I don't know. Still, I think a hand like ace jack 7-6 with a suited ace might be playable in that spot, as this player is playing 75% of their hands. I'd rather have like an 8 than a 6, of course, right? But having those nutty things that we can make, I think makes our hands, those are the ones that I think hold their equity and do well multi-way, whereas the hands that have a lot of equity coming from weaker flush draws, smaller straights, smaller pairs, I think those often lose a lot of their equity multi-way, although they can siphon equity off from aces like really well, if you're like in more of an all-in situation. However, if you're in more of a higher SPR, you're going to play a pot raised out of position multi-way. I think those hands don't do so well, but that's my feeling. All right. Kevin says, I thought about dressing better too. Doesn't matter for us now. Maybe it's part of a gimmick or something. Yeah. First of all, you do dress better. I think not necessarily intentionally, but I mean, I just feel like I'm just like in the same, not the same sweatshirt. I have a rotation. I have multiple sweatshirts. They're all black, but they're different. Some of them are cotton. Some of them have zippered pockets. Zippered pockets are really good for playing live poker. in my experience. There's always stuff I want to put in my pockets, and I don't want to be sitting there and things may be falling out. Zippers. All pockets should have zippers. Except in like yoga clothes. You definitely don't want pockets in yoga clothes. 553 deuce, 5543 with suit, maybe. 553 deuce, no thanks. Yeah, make it an intro to a YouTube series, the Mr. Rogers kind of thing. I think it would be a great intro for a YouTube series. I may do something with it like that. I'd have to like maybe put some music, but like it can't be exactly the song. I don't know. Don't want those DMCA strikes, right? I would like to first have a big channel and have something to lose before getting any copyright strikes. Let's see. It is 20 till. I think I will. Shall we wrap the session here? It's like, oh, the game's so good. I've got 3 really tight players on my right, and not really tight, but just on the tighter side, and then 2 quite loose players on my left. So I mean, 3 players who seem to be playing well. It's not the best game. I will leave this table. I'll let Kevin open up this table. You can have my seat, eh? And then stream it on yours. And I'll just review some hands here. And we shall then we'll call it a stream. And again, for anybody who wasn't around earlier, at 1 p.m. Pacific, that's in 2 hours and 20 minutes, I will be doing a podcast on the Ethical Pandas channel. Let me throw a link there. Slash the Ethical Panda. Is that gonna link? That's gonna link. Yeah. So go ahead, give them a follow. They've got like 40 something, so very close to that affiliate thing where then they can start making ones and ones of dollars just like I do. That's an okay flop. Okay, so I didn't say anything about this one. Raising it is just a clear raise. A pocket pair with a suited ace. I'm just going to try and let someone make something. There's some merit to be for just like, just put a bet out there. These people aren't going to fold for like a few bucks. But they are, and like now they can have some draws. Just make a flush, make a straight, try and bluff. I don't know. Maybe have a king. I do think I can. How much am I going to bet here? I'm going to bet like $4. And if somebody hit a king, they're going to call. If they didn't, I gave him a shot. I gave him a chance to make something. If there were more draws on the flop, I might actually just bet my quads straight away, particularly if the other card was over the 9s. It can be hard to get money from quads, right? You need someone to make a boat. You need someone to make even a straight or a flush. It's like most people won't get excited. I thought these people might get excited if they made a straight or a flush. So, and on the turn, they could have been drawing live. They could have had open-ended straight flush draw and had 2 outs. So, I took some risks. They could also have a double gutter straight flush draw. Can you have that in Hold'em? Yes. Yes, you can. But like with a 7 and an 8 of clubs, they could have had the 4 and the 5 of clubs, where the 6 of clubs is the thing. And then, 7 and 8? They could have 10 and jack, and then a 9 of clubs would give them a different straight flush. So they'd be using different hold cards. That's fancy. You'd have to have the 7 and the 8 in Hold'em, and then have the other 4 cards in No Limit. But you'd already have a flush there. Here, you don't have to have a flush. 9s with the queen jack, I think I can raise this. Suited to the queen. We're probably going to get cold called by our pal behind us. The button does seem like fairly, like the sort of person who might 3-bet a fair amount of cards, but we haven't seen them do it so far. So playing this out of position isn't optimal, but I think it's fine. We might be playing it in position if this person 3-bets, although I think in this hand I will fold to a 3-bet. Unless you're stream sniping, in which case I'm definitely not folding if you're 3-bet bluffing. Okay. Top pair. 3 to a flush draw. Not blocking any of the wrappy things. Let's take a card. 9's good. A 10's good. A heart's good, but not wonderful. Again, I think we'll continue checking. I do have queen high hearts. Against the big blinds, they're going to have a fair amount of mate straights. They also can have king high, ace high hearts. The player behind us can have those things. We have no outs to the nuts anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and fold this one. I think the flop was maybe an interesting spot to throw a c-bet out there, but I elected not to. Session review time. Ace for Trey folds to me. I raise. I don't love this raise. Now, I think this raise is fine. And chime in with any comments or questions that you might have. But I think, first of all, let's look it up in the PLO matrix, right? Just 3-3 with an ace and a 4. This is actually just supposed to be a fold, right? With a suited ace, we raise it. But here, I will make a note. Ace 4, 3-3, single suited. Bad suit is fold button. Good suit is RFI call, right? So if I were suited to the ace, raise call. I'm not, so we just fold. But ace 5 with a suit to the 5 is a raise. However, I think because of the nature of the blinds, it's probably going to play a bit worse, not being suited to the ace. So this is actually incorrect as a raise. It's not that far off from correct, but it's incorrect. And if I had a 5, I would have had bottom pair, but that's not really a concern. There's lots of straight draws here. I have no board interaction, so I have very little equity. I have no relevant blockers, and this is a board that people can continue on fairly easily, and these are players that like to continue. So I just give up, and then we get a bet, and I fold, and not much more to say about this. It was mostly just a pre-flop spot. Moving on, what do we have next? We have ace jack jack 6. So I'm going to raise this. Oh no, I folded it. And that was partially because of that ace thing. I think if I raise the last hand in the button, folding this doesn't make a lot of sense. We'll go to cutoff range, right? Take a look, single suited jacks with an ace. Yeah, this is a raise. This is raise fold. I do think my logic at the table was sensible, but any jack with an ace single suited is a raise. So all jack ace single suited is RFI in cutoff. Okay, so my thought was that this wouldn't play that well. But I think it's too clear, right? Like, even with the... I mean, ace 6 might be worse than, like, ace 5, ace 4, ace 3, ace 2, because those at least have straight draw. The 6 is just a total garbage card. So if I'm going to pitch a hand that's ace jack single suited, maybe the one with the 6 is the first one to pitch. But since I'm playing, like, king 5, king 6, I think this hand is just a raise. And this was a little too, oh, let me tighten up. And not get in bad spots. I was also saying today, after that podcasting episode, I am going to do a multi-table stream. So check back in at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and I will be multi-tabling for the second time on stream, or the second time PLO on stream. And we'll be giving it a go and seeing how it feels, right? Trying out different things. Let's check this out from the button. I felt pretty confident that this was, in fact, a fold, sorry. And it is, in fact, a raise, so I was just wrong. And the important stuff that I've learned is the following. King, queen, 4 deuce, single suited is RFI, good suit or bad suit. Very few king, queen, single suited, fold button. And it should say... on button, right? I mean, I know that because the hand. We'll say 7 deuce good suit and 8-3 to 7-2 6-2 3-2 bad suit. That's probably too much data there, but basically I had the right idea. King queen double suited with terrible side cards is in fact a fold. But it's terrible side cards means 7 deuce if we're suited to the king and the queen, or hands that are like this but not exactly this. If this was not suited to the king or the queen, I would have folded it and I would have felt better about it. So I think this, again, a little bit too tight. So we see maybe I was playing too tight, but nevertheless my stats weren't really tight, right? Because I was getting dealt a lot of good hands. So let's just say ace, queen, queen, jack. This hand I thought was interesting. I get flat here, and then this player just jams, right? And I don't actually know their cards at the time. We'll cover that up. But I have to think, like, if somebody had kings, there's a good chance that they're 3-betting. They might not. I got 3-bet by this other player with kings earlier. They did have ace, king, king. So that's more of a 3-bet combo. So king, king without an ace is possible. But I feel like also if I jam, they might fold kings, right? They might not call it off. Maybe this was optimistic, but I decided to just try to clean up some equity, right? Just these players have hands. They've got 8 cards between them. And let's just get them to fold them if possible. And the first one folds. And the second one, well, they decide to come along. But now we'll look at the SPR on the flop. There is $70 in the middle and $8 behind. So I only need like 10%-ish equity to get it in for the 8. I'd rather put it in myself. Maybe they'll fold some equity. They decide not to. And there's the run out. And somehow my hand holds up. They did flop, you know, they had jacks and a flush draw. So I think we're roughly flipping on the flop. I have a jack, which is nice. That hurts them. But, and I do have some re-outs with the queens, but one queen's dead, whatever. We could take a look at that exact equity as we are actually running a little fast. We'll just take a look at that. We'll go here. We'll go launch equity calculator and swing it back over. And we'll just look at on the flop. No, the 7 of spades got to be there. And we'll take out the other player's hand and just see head to head. I think I'm gonna have like, do they have a backdoor? I think I will have like around 55-ish, maybe to 60, but probably around 55. Oh, 60. Okay, 61. Yeah, so I'm ahead, but not way ahead. So we have to get used to just like we lose that sometimes. We get it in good and we lose it. Sometimes we get it in bad, and sometimes we get it in bad and we win. It's PLO. Okay, so here I decide to overlimp. I do think with the nut suit, with the jacks, I'm going to flop top set some. I'm going to flop nut flush draw some. I think a pretty good case can be made for raising this one. Again, there's not that much that I have in the way of like how to study this spot, right? It's just, we just kind of have to think about it. And over time we can look at our results, but like, it's going to be hard to really figure out how are we doing with our limps, particularly of particular sorts. I mean, even in Hold'em, you try and say, oh, you know, if I overlimp ace 4 suited here, how am I doing with it? Or ace 10 off compared to raising. It's like our sample size for individual hands in an individual scenario in an individual position, that's low. But here in PLO with 270,000 combinations, like, yikes. All right, so I flop nothing. I check. And then here, I have the nut straight draw, right? Any 10 that's not a diamond, that's like 3 cards. It gives me the nuts, but I'm double blocking the nuts. Nobody bet the flop, so wraps are kind of unlikely. They need to have exactly jack 10 to have the nuts, and without the nuts, there's diamonds people can draw to. So I bet, and I get called, and now the diamonds don't come in. I'm just like, you know what? I mean, yeah, I have this 8 of diamonds. I'd actually rather not have it now because I want them to have it, because I want them to have, they can have these lower wraps, they can have diamonds. So I don't like blocking that, but I love having 2 jack blockers. So I just pot it and they fold. And I don't know, maybe this was too much. Maybe I use a smaller bet sizing here, but I just felt like they don't have the nuts very often. I know they don't have the nuts very often. I can easily have the nuts. Just give me the pot. They gave me the pot. We move on to another hand. This, what? Oh, I guess I didn't mark that other hand. I'll replay the other hand because I think it was interesting. We'll do that after this. So King Jack 7-6 with a diamonds, right? I fold. So with King High suit, we will go back and look at the hijack. So MP, King Jack single suited, 6-7 is indeed a fold. It's not even close. I was wondering whether I should play like with like an 8-7 or something, and the answer is no. So King Jack 7-6 single suited is fold in hijack, good suit or bad suit. Only King Jack single suited played is 10-9 through 7. Yeah, 10-9. We'll say 10-8. Good suit, and 10-7 good suit. Actually, this one's bad suit. So King Jack 10-7 we actually fold unless we're suited to the king. Yesterday was, it's funny because June was the best poker month I'd had in a while. Just in terms of like running good, not playing big volume, but playing consistently, and feeling like I was playing well and working on improving and all that. And then yesterday was the worst day I've had in PLO online anyway. So it was funny, like, it's like that, oh, share the graph, and then you just have a curse immediately, right? But I did a 2-hour review of the 5-hour session, and I got so much out of it, just in terms of, I guess 3 or 4 main things happened. One, I was able to look at spots that I had only played in the moment and analyze them and learn from them. And, 2, identify some mistakes, some things to try and alter in my thinking and play more effectively. 3, I was able to kind of take all of the tension of running so bad and playing bad in spots and like acknowledge it, be with it, and then let it go, because I processed it, right? So I think that's really valuable. But then 4, I relived a couple spots where it's like, oh, why did this player bet with ace high and get me to fold kings when the other player had aces, but I could have gotten a free river that was a king and I would have won a big pot, So there was a mix of like reliving some unpleasantness, but even in that hand, I was like, well, I could have actually put more pressure earlier because I knew the other player was all in, and then I could put pressure on this player's range and they wouldn't have bluffed at me. I kind of thought it was a spot where they wouldn't bluff because there was no side pot, but they bluffed into a dry side pot and got me to fold a hand that wasn't good, but spiked a 2-outer on the river. So I didn't get to realize my equity because somebody had delusions of grandeur, and lost. So, okay, that's that. We've played this hand, right? We reviewed this. But yeah, anyway, I just highly recommend doing session reviews. It's just so it's really important in terms of improving, right? And it can also be very cathartic in terms of just acknowledging that like we can have emotions about some hands, or or just like tension, right? Stress, and or we can be continuing to expend mental energy on them, when what we need to do is we can learn from them, right? We don't want to just try and push them out. We want to be like, okay, let's look at this. What is there to learn some lessons, and then move on, right? Leave the hands in the past, keep the lessons with us. So that's my motivational speech for studying. Do your homework. Okay, let's pop this one up. Oh, this is so ugly. It's so ugly now. All right. Whatever. Now let's lean into reliving some unpleasant moments and see what happens. Okay, I've got aces with a jack-9 suited. I get 3-bet, and I just 4-bet. Like, I don't think there's really anything to talk about here. That's why I didn't mark it, right? We just got it in with aces pre, and it ran out, and they had kings and they had spades, and they got there both times. So we're just gonna throw up the equity calculator, right, to just like remind ourselves, like here on the flop they had 47.8% equity, so they're gonna win this hand almost half the time. So the flop comes out, and I think for me the strategy I take here is I just emotionally prepare myself. I'm like, okay, the turn might be a spade, and I almost like sometimes in my head I'm like spade, and then it's not. I'm like, okay, but I'm like, oh yeah, it's a king. I lose, right? I needed exactly the ace of hearts on the river, right? When we have king of diamonds here on the turn, I think I now have 2.5% equity. Yeah, 2.5%. But let's even just go back to pre-flop, right? Let's look at pre-flop, and I think this should be able to do it without crashing, right? I have 64.65% equity. So not even 2/3 of the time am I going to win this pot. So we run this 3 times, and they're supposed to get a third, right? They're supposed to get 1 out of 3. And like, just like internalizing that, like being with it, accepting it as just like, that's how the game works. That's Pot Limit Omaha. And I mean, that's true in other poker games as well, right? But I think just accepting that, and it's like, what do we have to take away from this hand? Well, yeah, we got it in good. Cool. There's not that much left. Like, I can look and I can be like, okay, let's open up the matrix and let's look at, what am I? I'm MP. Okay, MP. We'll look at single suited aces. And okay, everything is raise, get it in, except in position. I can actually flat some combos. Not this combo. This combo I'm still gonna raise. But I should actually look more at let's look at a different one. Let's look at 50 BBs, right? 50 BBs and 30 BBs. If I am, you know, MP, like for 50 BBs, single suited aces, like, yeah, just pure raise, re-raise. Just no slow playing here. What about rainbow? Yep, pure, just get it in, except for quad aces, we actually raise fold. Because it's a terrible hand. And it's mostly just raising because it has great blockers. And double suited, do we ever flat double suited? Nope. Nope. So if we raise and call, we just don't have aces. 50 BBs deep. Let's look at 30 BBs. It's going to be the same. This person had 40, right? So we're just comparing. We're just looking at different things. MP, aces, we raise, we just get it in 100%, right? So there weren't any decisions in this hand, right? I didn't make any decisions. I took actions, but aces first in, like, it's not a decision to raise anymore. I know that it's the thing to do, so it's just like a procedure, basically, right? There's nothing to think about. It's just a procedure. I do it. They 3-bet, and now what's my procedure? Out of position, 4-bet, all ace, right? So I just follow that procedure. So it's like, it's more robotic. And I think sort of ABC automated, this type of autopilot thing can get a bad name, right? Where we don't want to have tons of spots where we're doing that. We don't want to have spots that shouldn't be autopiloted in our autopilot. That's bad. That's a mistake. We're losing value there, right? But what we can do is we can have spots that we just know, like, yeah, this is what I do in this spot. And then we don't have to expend any mental energy, any emotional energy. We're just like, yeah, we just get it in. And then the run out comes out. Okay, they won, whatever. Move on, next hand, right? We'll get him back. We'll get him back. We got him back, right? So anyway, that's it for this session. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, what can I say? Have a great rest of your time period that you are experiencing. Cheers.